Welcome to another edition of Beacons of Light. One of the great things about working within the Society of St. Vincent de Paul is all of the great people involved with the Society. And it's a great honor to have Ruthie and Billy Coenan with us here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, right before we went on camera, you were kind of sharing with me how you came to Baton Rouge. And so tell us that story of you were involved with the St. Vincent de Paul Society in North Louisiana, and now here you're in Baton Rouge involved with the St. Vincent de Paul Society.
That's correct. Several years ago, 10, we purchased a condominium because several of our children lived here. So we could come back and forth and help babysit. And then it just evolved from there. We were spending a lot more time here and less time at home, and we knew it was time to move down here. And luckily, our youngest son got a job in North Louisiana, and so he bought our house, and we were able to transition here and become involved with St. Vincent de Paul here, which was easy because you just went on the website, which is phenomenal, and you could see all the wonderful opportunities to volunteer here.
And a lot of Catholic opportunities here, huh, Billy?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We were talking about that. I come from a little town of Rayville, Louisiana, up in northeast Louisiana, near Monroe. And there were, for years and years, there were not many Catholics. My family and several others built the first church 100 years ago. And the joy of being down here is everywhere there's Catholics and many, many churches, and we just love it. And opportunities for St. Vincent de Paul are great, so we've enjoyed that.
Well, just to kind of hit on the fact that Blessed Frederick Ozanam was a law student and then an attorney, a professor of law.
Man.
He was. That's that word, blessed, But, we were talking that you were an attorney, and you were actually district attorney for the parish, right, for many years, huh?
I practiced civil law there, still do a little bit here. But I was a district attorney for 27 years in a 3-parish area. And that was a humbling experience as well.
Yes, yes.
It gave me an opportunity to work with a lot of people who had problems.
Yeah.
So.
And that's where our faith can come in, when you have a profession and you're called to, if you're a district attorney or whatever, to put your faith in, and that really allows you to really keep human dignity at a very high level. And I know that y'all started a meal program.
We did in 2000.
Yeah, tell us about it.
At Sacred Heart in Rayville. It grew out of our recognition of the need in the parish to help the lost and forgotten, basically, who were in need. There's a lot of need up there, as everywhere else too. But we were serving the transients who came by, and so we started serving the meals. Started out, I think the first time we served, December of 2000, was about 87 people, 87 families. The next time we served, it was 160.
Wow.
Because more people found out about it and requested the service. So we would prepare the meals and have drivers to take them to the different homes all over the parish.
That is amazing.
So we had about 11 different routes at the time.
And from a faith perspective, you were called to do it and put that faith into action.
Right.
But how did it enrich in your spiritual life?
Well, we were able to go into the homes when we delivered the meals to see. We always had at least 2 people going with us. We're able to visit with the people we were serving, find out what other needs they might have, which there was always plenty of that. Mm-hmm. And it became an outreach program along with just serving, not just serving the meals, but seeing families that needed help with utility bills, but trying to help them figure out a way to help themselves do it too.
And I know at one point that it became, y'all kind of said, hey, the St. Vincent de Paul Society is doing great work within the community, and we've got this meals program, and it kind of transitioned into a St. Vincent de Paul act.
It did, based on what Monroe was doing through Joanne Crone.
That's right.
We got in contact with her, and she was such a great face for St. Vincent de Paul in that area. So we formed our St. Vincent de Paul Council there and work in conjunction with the Monroe also, and Northeast Catholic Charities.
How many members of that local St. Vincent de Paul group did y'all have?
Oh, on the books there were probably 30. With being such a small area, we probably 10 to 12 of us.
Yes, I got you.
Would do most of the organizational part of it, but then a lot of different people would help.
Yeah, and that's typical
delivery.
of any conference or council. You've got that dozen, and that really, you may have 30 on the books, but you got a dozen that are there every week or every, it's amazing.
One of the things that at least I appreciated, it drew our parish together. On the Saturday where we distribute the meals and cook the meals, there may have been 30 plus of us getting together and doing that. Ruthie and it's kind of an outgrowth in a way of the altar society. The ladies got the men, and we would start beginning to cook and distribute, and it expanded from Rayville to Delhi, which is an adjoining parish of St. Teresa, and then south to a little town called Mangum. So we were distributing in a pretty wide geographical area when we all got together.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's kind of like, in that, I mean, Christ's agenda, if you want to so call it, is to save souls, and then in doing so, reach out to those who are the least among us.
Least of my brothers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in a real powerful way, that's something people really rally around, don't you think, Billy?
It does. One of my favorite Bible studies is Matthew chapter 25, the least of our brothers, and also the two great commandments, love God and love your neighbor. And if, to me, that you can live your entire life trying to satisfy those two scriptural verses. So, and that's my feeling about the joy of doing St. Vincent de Paul work and other relief work.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, because we're all called to follow Christ and to grow more like Him, and He's so perfect. It's kind of, we're reaching always. Do you find that, Ruthie?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We never can attain all we want to do, but we just keep striving one step at a time to reach out to those we see in need and help any way we can with them.
And we're all called to do that, no matter, you know, whether we're in Rayville, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or anywhere in the world. And I think that's what really Frederick Ozanam's vision was to have a society that served the poor, that was endless in its love and its compassion for our fellow human beings. And that's what I, you know, really respect. No matter where you go in the country or the world, you see that in the society. And well, you mentioned Joanne Cronin, and when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about Joanne, Monroe, and the wonderful things that happen in northern Louisiana, southern Louisiana, and throughout the world for our Society of St. Vincent de Paul. We do everything, and we're all called to see the face of Christ in those we serve. We'll be back in the next segment.
My Bicycle Journey, a book that tells a story. It educates, it promotes, and it also provides some leadership. Take the time to purchase this book, and St. Vincent de Paul benefits from all of the proceeds of this book. Please, if you would, give St. Vincent de Paul a call and let me know what you think of My Bicycle Journey.
The Society of St. Vincent de Paul is throughout the entire world, and it's great to know the many good works in our local diocese, in the Shreveport Monroe Diocese, and just throughout the world. And joining me is Billy and Ruth Ruthie Coenan, and they're here to talk to us about that. And we mentioned Joanne Cronin, and Joanne called me many years ago and said, I hear y'all in Baton Rouge are opening up a St. Vincent de Paul pharmacy. What is that about? And we had that great conversation. And you're right, we talked earlier about the number of Catholics here in Baton Rouge, so there's a lot of support for our local society. In northern Louisiana, maybe not as many Catholics, so maybe the support is not as ample. She found a way to make that pharmacy open. It's doing great, it's thriving, and what was y'all's view of that pharmacy in action and why it was important in that area?
Well, North Louisiana has, like I said earlier, just a lot of need. And we were able, with our council at Sacred Heart, to provide, or the pharmacy provided actually, the medications that fill in the prescriptions for those in need, working through Joanne Cronin. I mean, she was phenomenal with getting that established, and it's well established and doing well. It's, works hard. It serves a lot of people up there.
It's amazing. And,
it really is.
And when you're serving meals, you run across somebody that might need a life-sustaining prescription. Being able to fill that is just a remarkable asset.
Yes.
Well, Michael, the thing that, and I believe everyone understands it, even from your large parishes and dioceses like Baton Rouge, but in North Louisiana in particular, you have what I call a lot of the walking poor. They have no transportation. They can't get to a pharmacy sometimes because they live too far away. They can't get to Monroe Pharmacy. So we have transportation needs. Certainly we have needs to purchase medicines if they had the money, and many of them don't. So it brings your parish together, not only your church parish, but also your civil parish. Richland Parish, I think, profited a lot by the Catholics, and particularly Joanne and her pharmacy outreach, and it's been very important.
Well, it's people like Joanne, for me, that really helped me to grow in my faith, because I knew what we were up against in Baton Rouge, relative to open a new program. We were the first St. Vincent de Paul group to ever do a pharmacy in the country. And I was like, some of my colleagues said, go for it, you're doing great. And other colleagues says, that'll never work. And so for her to tackle it shortly after we opened our own pharmacy was just amazing. When you see people like Joanne or other members of your St. Vincent de Paul Society, for me, it helps me grow in my spiritual life.
Absolutely, absolutely. You just try to follow in their footsteps.
Yep.
And then meeting the ones in need.
Right.
But it's through the people whom we admire, I guess.
Well, she generates enthusiasm.
Yes.
If you're ever around her,
oh yeah,
she spreads the word not only about the pharmacy, but the ACTS program, which we have both been involved in. She just seems to be everywhere there's a need, and everywhere that Catholics can make a difference.
Right.
And so she's very instrumental in our area.
Yeah, and we talked about growing spiritually, and before we went on camera, we were talking, and I said, the only saint in my house is my wife. and y'all had a good giggle to that. But for me, I mean, my faith life, my parents, oh, what a blessing. They really started me off so well. And then my wife is just so inspirational. Doesn't it help you to grow when you're a married couple and you share that faith and you grow together?
Sure, absolutely. When I first met Billy, he is and was a devout Catholic. I grew up Methodist.
Okay.
And am a convert. So we started going to Mass together while we were dating, and I chose to come into the faith before we got married.
Yeah.
And we've been Catholic together ever since.
She's made a better Catholic out of me, I can assure you.
Oh, I say that
made
too.
him read more.
She took her vows of Catholicism at Christ the King Church.
Yes.
About
51 years ago.
Years ago, when we were both in college, and Ruthie is not only a very nice person generally, but she's made me a kind of a nicer person because I really take,
as an attorney,
she gives the lead and I follow a lot of times.
Yeah.
Me too.
She has the ideas and I can't turn her down, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, just can't.
Yeah, I'm
She's
a
very
cradle
supportive.
Catholic too.
Yeah,
and,
I am too.
And my mom was a convert as well, and so I know that passion and that fire because it enriches your life, you know.
Yeah.
And we serve one God, one Christ, and you know, that's what's so remarkable about the St. Vincent de Paul Society. We have so many different faiths working along our side.
Yes, that's one thing I was so impressed with when we moved here and I was searching the site and seeing all the different organizations that help.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful to see that.
Yeah, because, you know, you mentioned in our earlier segment about loving one another and the commandment to do that. And, you know, sometimes on the show we talk about the fact of the, you know, Christ's command to love one another. If we do that, that solves all the world's problems.
Right.
What problem do we have if everybody just loves one another?
Absolutely. It's the basis. Yeah. And you know, Michael, too, now going to Mass is more special to me than it was coming up. Of course, I came up through the Latin Masses and all the progression, but the relationship which I have with Ruthie, we both enjoy going to Mass, discussing the sermons, discussing what maybe we can do to enact something that we drew from the discussion that day and bring it to the community. So it gives you ideas. It makes you, at least it makes me, not just want to go to Mass and forget it till the next Sunday. It kind of affects your everyday life.
Yeah. It makes you active. It makes you put that faith into action. Because isn't that what Christ is doing for us?
Absolutely.
That challenge, right,
Yes.
Ruthie?
Yes, yes. One of the special things I think that Billy and I share in our faith life is each morning we have our meditation time together.
Great.
You know, say our rosary at a certain time together and just, you know, praying together.
Yes.
And you know, Lent had much more of a meaning to me this year. It may have been COVID. It may have been you had to make the extra effort to go. But going to Mass most days, and we go to Christ the King. We actually went to 4 different churches in the parish for the Lenten situation. But we loved it, and we talked about it. And even though you had to mask up, and it was a little tougher, it was very enjoyable. Most enjoyable Lent that I've had, really.
And that's what all our faith lives should be, enjoyable and growing and feeling that passion of Christ. It's something that we do every day at the St. Vincent de Paul Society. We work so very hard at making a difference in the lives of those who are truly in need and meeting that challenge. And it's you know, so amazing, Billy and Ruthie living their faith lives. And when we come back, we'll talk about how we can grow in faith and really serve God's poor.
The Society of St. Vincent de Paul's first cookbook, Taste and See, is the gift which helps share the goodness of the Lord with those most in need. Featuring recipes from Chef John Foles, each chapter begins with a short story about one of our special work programs. To order your copy of Taste and See, please call the Society or visit our website. Help multiply blessings for the neediest in our community.
Living our faith actively is a challenge we all have to meet. And joining me is Billy and Ruthie Coenan, who are sharing how they live their faith actively. And we talked in another segment about how we can enjoy our faith and growing spiritually. And let's talk about Christmas toys, because y'all have done that 2 years now since you've been in Baton Rouge, and it's an eye-opening experience, isn't it?
It is. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And Deshae Martin couldn't be more organized
Yes.
with gathering it together and putting it on the website as to when to come and wrap and bag. It was just phenomenal. And also to see the outpouring of spirit within the community here of donations.
It's amazing.
It is. It is. This year was a bigger challenge because of working through the COVID situation and getting the gifts wrapped.
Right.
And so this year there were a lot of leftover gifts from last year that needed to be wrapped.
Right.
And I had contacted Deshay and told her I had a group of ladies in the community where I live that would be glad to help wrap.
Right.
And I know she had to ask you if it was okay to bring them out of the facility and get them wrapped. So we were able to do that.
Yeah.
But it also helped involve more people in the area where we live who were so willing to wrap. And they did a beautiful job wrapping the gifts.
Yeah, we got a great group of rappers, don't we?
We do.
No music involved, just all Christmas presents.
Right.
You know, Ruthie is so joyous about Christmas with 6 kids and 14 grandchildren. And even before St. Vincent de Paul, I mean, she decorates the place a month ahead of time and leaves it up 2 weeks after time. But when St. Vincent de Paul came into our lives here in Baton Rouge, she was really joyous about Christmas. And as she said, we have probably 15 or 20 people at the condo area where we live that really got into it as well.
Yes.
Probably mostly, or many of them, non-Catholics, but they call Ruthie to see if they can help. And Deshay had us over at the big assembly area off Florida Boulevard, and so many, probably 10 or 15 other people with us did it several days and just really enjoyed it.
You know, it's just such a remarkable event. And, you know, Bishop Duca, who was the Bishop of Shreveport Diocese that covers Monroe and Rayville and all that.
He's the second bishop we had.
That's it. And he gave out the toys this past Christmas, just like he did last year. And from the standpoint, you know, we had some social distancing, but he is such a great Saint Nick. I just can't go on more and more. And, you know, Channel 2 and Sylvia Witherspoon and St. George Fire Parades, it is amazing to see all that support that comes through. And, you know, as you mentioned, every year we do have gifts left over. And, you know, some of those gifts we use for birthday presents at the shelter. But the other thing is, you never can guess right, you know. Although I will say, we never seem to have enough 10 to 12 boys and girls toys. We usually 4 to 6. We usually have that surplus. But what we have never done in all the years that I can recall is we've run out of a core area of gifts. We've always had something for a child, and that's because of magnificent and generous people like yourselves and others, and Miss Deshay who coordinate. It's amazing, both, you know, prior to COVID, y'all remember that, and then a COVID year. The number of volunteers that just come in is all walks of life.
It is.
I was going to mention that. It brings out the best, I think, in your merchants. It costs a lot of money for Christmas gifts, and it costs a lot of money for Easter baskets. But you have so many generous merchants here, and your fire department, your police department. It seems to bring the community even that much more together.
Well, we're the ones receiving the blessings from all of this.
Yes. It is a blessing.
It is.
And I know y'all prepare meals for the shelter, and y'all have been in there to serve the people that are truly homeless. What has that experience been like?
The first time we did this, several of our children still lived here, so I got the family to help prepare and serve, the older grandchildren to help serve. And it's just so wonderful to sit down with the guests who are in the shelter, hear their stories, you know, share with them a meal. I mean, nothing could be more Christ-like than sharing a meal with someone. And our children, our grandchildren, were so touched and amazed by being able to go in and do that. And we're looking forward to the day when we can go back in and serve, but for the time being, we have a group of people where we live, once again, who help prepare the meals, and we take them and leave them.
It's a spiritual nourishment that, you know, how many children again?
We have 6 children.
6 children, and you know, I've only have 2, but you know, it's one thing when I told my child something, it's a whole different thing when they saw my wife and I in action. And
Yes.
did y'all feel that same thing
Absolutely.
with the grandkids?
I mean,
you know?
oh yes, to see the grandchildren really enjoy serving,
Yes.
especially the other children who were in the
Yes.
shelter, and then sitting with them
Yes.
and visiting with them. And they made some friendships there. In fact, the granddaughter, one of our granddaughters here said, "Oh, so-and-so's going to be, you know, in school with me next year," you know. So it was just a nice connection to see.
A great
You know, and another thing too, we serve on the lunch line
Yes.
at the lunchroom.
That's right.
And I think I hope other people get to do that, because you see hundreds of people come through,
Yes.
and they're all appreciative.
Yes,
They're
they
humble,
are.
and it humbles us as well to be able to serve them. So I mean, that's to me another great experience that this parish offers.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. It's that spiritual nourishment that helps you grow, and it's something that you may feel like you're coming to give, but every time I hear from great people like yourself, you get, like you said earlier, those blessings.
Receive so much more than we're giving.
Yeah.
And it just makes you want to do it again.
Yeah, and it's kind of like
more.
taking it. We're in Mass. We're hearing that message as you described in the earlier segment, and we're taking that scripture and we're taking that gospel message out and we're trying to live it. You know.
And that's what we're called to do, right?
Yeah, that's what Blessed Frederick and our patron St. Vincent de Paul. Those are examples that are hard to follow. And what would your message? We got about 1:20 left in the show. To others that may say, you know, that's kind of outside my comfort zone. I've never really been involved in serving the homeless or those who are in a situation of poverty. What would your message be to them?
Well, it's the old, it's better to give than to receive. I don't think that if someone would try to help with the Christmas or the Easter or a feeding or help the women's shelter, I don't think they'll feel the same. They'll want to do it more because it's that enjoyable, and you feel like you are living out your religion.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of remembering it's not about me.
Yes. It's all about others.
Yes.
And it goes back to what we said in the earlier segment. It's about loving one another. And that's really what the St. Vincent de Paul Society is all about. Billy and Ruthie, thank you for being on the show.
Enjoyed it.
It was enjoyable. I learned a lot about North Louisiana I didn't know about, but I do know that Christ is alive in our world, whether we're in Baton Rouge or Rayville, Louisiana. We hope you enjoy the show, and we'll see you again next week on Beacons of Light.